Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we're officially putting on our detective hats. Look, if you've spent literally any time looking at raw on-chain data, you know exactly what I'm talking about, the absolute frustration of staring at endless hashes on Etherscan, right? So today, we're going to decipher the on-chain narrative. We're going to figure out how to translate those massive, intimidating walls of alphanumeric code into actual, actionable intelligence.
Let's start with the big one. Blockchain promised perfect transparency, period. A completely decentralized, open ledger where every single transaction is laid bare for the whole world to verify.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the promise of transparency.
Because technically speaking, the technology actually kept that grand promise. Every single transaction is recorded, every movement of funds is totally visible, and every interaction is permanently etched into the ledger for all of history. Absolutely nothing can be swept under the rug. Whether it's just a tiny gas fee payment or, a massive liquidity pool shift, the data is flawlessly preserved across thousands of nodes worldwide.
But, and this is a massive but, that brings us to a really critical question. Does visibility actually equal understanding? Think about it. If you're tracking a token migration or monitoring some massive whale wallet and you're just staring at millions of lines of alphanumeric strings, does that raw transparency actually help you comprehend what that smart contract is executing?
Section 2, the hidden meaning. Let's look at the gap between seeing numbers and actually knowing what's going on.
Think of the open ledger like a meticulously preserved crime scene. Sure, you can inspect every single ERC-20 transfer and addresses ever made. We have all the footprints perfectly preserved right there in the data. But we have zero context, none. We have the what and the when timestamped perfectly, literally down to the second. But the who and the why, those remain completely hidden from view.
You can trace a wallet's history all the way back to its genesis block, but just looking at the raw hex code, there's no way to immediately know if that string of characters belongs to a highly regulated institutional custodian or a malicious actor setting up a phishing drainer. From a purely technical standpoint, they look exactly the same. The code executes identically whether the intent is benign or entirely malicious.
And this is the core problem staring the entire industry right in the face. Visibility alone doesn't create understanding. An open ledger just isn't truly functional for builders, or analysts, or security teams if it's just a giant wall of anonymous hashes. It's kind of like having access to the world's most comprehensive financial database, but all the column headers and entity names are heavily encrypted. You know something big is happening, but you have absolutely no idea what it actually means.
So how do we bridge that gap? Section 3, telling the full story.
We desperately need a translator, and that is exactly where Codata enters the picture. This platform is a real game changer. It serves as that critical missing link in the ecosystem, completely designed to tackle this exact problem of translation and context.
So let's look at how this process actually works. Step 1, you've got that raw on-chain activity, the visible but functionally meaningless hashes we've been talking about. Then, Codata brings in Step 2, human-verified context. Now, this isn't just basic automated labeling. It's about injecting actual real-world intelligence into the equation. We're talking about accurately identifying exchange hot wallets, flagging known exploiter addresses before they can do more damage, and correctly categorizing those really complex interactions within different DeFi protocols. Think about the difference between seeing just some random contract address and actually knowing for sure that it's a specific lending pool's routing contract. When you synthesize that raw activity with rigorous human-verified context, you arrive at Step 3, which is useful information. The data literally transforms from a passive visual record into really sharp, actionable intelligence.
Let this sink in for just a second. Transparency without interpretation only tells half the story. Wow, that just perfectly hit the nail on the head, right? It perfectly encapsulates the main bottleneck in current Web3 analytics. You can have the most decentralized, transparent network imaginable, but without interpretation, you're basically walking into the middle of a really complex movie and trying to guess the plot just by looking at the background props. Like, the action is definitely happening, but the narrative is entirely lost.
By taking that massive, super complex web of on-chain data and layering in that absolutely crucial human-verified context, we finally get the complete picture. Codata actually tells the full story. We finally get to move past just passively staring at a ledger, and we start actually understanding the mechanics, the specific actors, and the real flow of the ecosystem. It empowers users to build way better models, track liquidity accurately, and execute their transactions with far greater confidence.
So I want to leave you with this final thought for today's explainer.
When you're conducting your very next piece of on-chain analysis, or maybe you're trying to track liquidity movements across the blockchain, are you just looking at the raw numbers, or are you actually reading the full story? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. I really hope this gave you a solid new framework for how you look at on-chain data. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.